Since Jesus never used the term Christian, does that mean that what has become Christianity is not the true teachings of Jesus? That is one of the things that many Christians or Bible believers like to say in order to distance themselves from the corruption of the church and the corruption of the people involved in the history that man has attributed to Christianity. No one wants Christianity now attributed to slavery. No one wants Christianity attributed to the witch hunts. No one wants it attributed to the all the that middle-aged time frame where they was doing the inquisitions. Good gracious, couldn't get that word. So I'm going to tell you why this is a true statement and why it's not a true statement. One of the reasons that it is a true statement is because if you take this statement literally, then yes, Jesus never claimed to be Christian. Jesus never said that. This story about Jesus is of a Jewish reformer. He was born into Judaism. He lived as a Jew, and then he became a reformer in much the same way that Martin Luther was a reformer of Christianity, which created the Protestant movement. Martin Luther didn't claim to be Protestant at the time frame. He still was considering himself Catholic, but he was looking to reform the church. Jesus was looking to reform the temple. So the Jesus character to which you have in your Bible would have never claimed Christianity because he was never trying to leave Judaism. So if a person was claiming to truly be a follower of the Jesus character, then they would try to follow Judaism. They would try to follow a new reformed version of Judaism. But even at that, their ability to do so, to claim it, is also a lie, because everything that is Christianity is based on what is supposed to be the teachings of this Jesus character. So it is also true that Christians are followers of Jesus Christ. That is the idea of Christianity, is that you are a follower of those teachings. The problem comes in is that most Christians don't know how those teachings came about and who decided what teachings are going to be what. If you truly understood biblical history, then you would know that there was no such thing as the four gospels of named John, Luke, Matthew, and Mark until 180, when Bishop Irenaeus decided that since there are four winds and four corners of the earth and four pillars, that there should only be four gospels, indicating that prior to that there were many gospels being taught over and over again, and those gospels were never named until Irenaeus named them in 180. Prior to that, 30 years prior, Justin Martyr called them I think he called them the apostle hierarchy or something. He called them the elders, the writings of the elders, something of that nature is what Justin Martyr. So Justin Martyr didn't even know of these four gospels under these four names. But they also quote Eusebius, Irenaeus, quote Papyrus, I'm saying his name wrong, who was writing in and around the time of Jesus. He was more of an interviewer of people who claim that they believe in this Jesus. He was writing, he interviewed so-called Mark. And in his interview with Mark, he states that Mark never knew Jesus, but was Peter's interpreter and didn't really get everything right. There was no mentioning of John until you get to around the time frame of Justin Martyr. Luke was definitely someone who claimed to have interviewed other people, Peter, and wrote down as best he could. The only person that out of the Gospels who knew this Jesus or could have known this Jesus was Peter. Everybody else was an affiliate. So it is not eyewitness accounts. Therefore, you're getting the best that Papias could get about Mark. And the thing about it, we have none of the writings of Papias. We only have what is quoted by Irenaeus and Eusebius as them having read Papias' work. They quote the Gospel of the Hebrews. So there were many Gospels out there. It's just one dude decided what are going to be the four. And as far as the letters of Paul Paul was written before any of the Gospels. And when you look at Paul's writings, the very distinctive difference is that you don't have all these miracles that supposedly were performed by Jesus. Because evidently, Paul supposedly converting to Christianity within 14 years of Jesus's death. Well, actually about 3 to 4 years after his death, and started his public ministry about 14 years after the so-called crucifixion. He doesn't mention any of those things that makes the four Gospels all miraculous, which makes you wonder, when Matthew, Mark, and Luke and John were being written, they're being written so many decades later that they could not have been written by eyewitnesses, and they were written more in a legendizing standpoint. For instance, none of them were more than likely written before the fall of the temple by the Romans. But then they incorporate the fall of the temple by the Romans. But Paul never incorporated those things. So Paul is really more about a guy who is just a good teacher, whereas the others become this legendized figure. But at the end of the day, the teachings, what people who call themselves Christians are basing their ideas and their thoughts and the way they live their life throughout history, whether you agree with how their morality or not, were based off of what they believe to be the teachings of Jesus, which then in retrospect would make Jesus a Christian. You can't claim that he had a different ministry, he had different words, he was teaching different things, if you have absolutely no proof of what this Jesus was actually teaching, because there is no proof of what this Jesus was teaching. If you got proof, let me know. You can't claim the Gospels at Nag Hammadi are the proof, because they were written much later. There's none of the writings in the Dead Sea Scrolls are of the Gospels that would be after the Jesus Christ character. So you can't claim those as authentic, because the ones that are similar are ones you find in your Bible already. So what are the teachings of Jesus if this is not the real teachings of Jesus that you find in the Bible? That these are distorted. What parts are distorted? What parts are not? Those are the questions you have to be able to answer. So beyond that, subscribe to the channel if you like it. Continue to free yourself to be yourself, because your greatness is non-negotiable. Good journey, good vibration.